You are now listening to the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you, taking a lap of the extra mile for today, May 19th, 2022. Yes, this is a very special day. Don't tell Kane that, of course. And to help me break down everything we saw in the weekend of racing, of course, I've got my co-hosts, Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. Gentlemen, welcome.
How's it going tonight?
Oh, you know, I bottled it on a Rouge today in Forza 7. It was kind of sad to watch, but, you know, rain does that.
It happens. Welcome in, everyone. So nice to have you back, Michael, as well as we are a full threesome today. That is a golf term, of course. For those of you that are in the chat, make sure you drop your comments. We'll read them as the show continues. Got a stacked show tonight. 2 guests this evening. Eddie Kanfoush will be joining me to talk about his first upcoming hydroplane race in the Cambridge Powerboat Regatta this weekend. And Maryam El-Amin is joining me to talk about her first experience at an NHRA race after the Virginia Nationals earlier this week, or last week, excuse me. Can't wait to get into that. We're going to go right into the show, and we are going to get started with NASCAR at Kansas. And I didn't get to watch this race live for obvious reasons, but I did go back and watch it on the tape delay on Monday. And the first thing I will say is the next gen car has saved mile and a halves.
I can agree.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I don't know how else to say it other than that. I mean, mile and a halves during the 550 era, you couldn't pass because of the fact that they were not lifting in the corners. It was basically Daytona everywhere, which I thought we had learned from Homestead. That's not exactly a good idea. But this new car, with it being harder to drive, we saw cars getting loose. Kyle Larson, man, he was really he jumped the cushion like 3 or 4 times, getting into the wall, was able to save it and keep going. When he was racing Kurt Busch for the win, we saw drivers having to manage their tires, having to manage the grip. This is what we wanted in the mile and a half racing, and it created A, a lot of passing, B, a lot of lead changes, and C, a lot of excitement. And it really shows that it wasn't the tracks for most of these. We still have Texas this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. But it was the car in a lot of places.
Yeah. That's what people have been saying for a good chunk of the time, is that it's been the car not really performing what people want it to do. And I think this race kind of showed that, you know, with this new car, that, you know, racing is kind of, you know, back, and it plays definitely a bigger role than what it had been when, you know, it was harder to pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing what will be a resurgence in the popularity of mile and a halves. Obviously, we were very down on them for a couple of years, and now they're starting to, well, of course, with reason. But now you might see the call. You might see people want more mile and a halves, get rid of some of these road courses that people have been bugging about for years and years and years. And now with how well these mile and a halves have been putting on shows, it's just, you know, what fans want is just a pendulum, right? Mm. So we always want something, we get it, then we start swinging back the other way. And that's how I feel these mile and a halves are going to be, is that in the next 2 years, you're going to see people complaining about the number of road courses, wanting more mile and a halves.
Well, they were complaining about the number of road courses before we even got started, but I hope we stay with the road courses, because they're a lot of fun now with this car that can actually run road courses, and we saw how entertaining those races could be, like at Circuit of the Americas, which I hope keeps its date going forward, because that track getting a second opportunity was really, really good. But we're going to go quickly into this. We had a resurgence of Toyota with 5 Toyotas in the top 10, and that included one Bubba Wallace, who started 24th, did not stay there for long, was as high as 5th at one point, finished 10th, So we had a double top 10 for 2311. But Bubba Wallace fans are still a little bit salty. And why do you ask? Well, that pit crew. 2 absolutely blunderous pit stops. Killed any momentum Bubba Wallace had in that race. Was able to rally back for 10th. But guys, we see that the 2311 cars actually have some speed now that Toyota has figured things out. Bubba Wallace put on a great race, but he got let down by the guys that are going over the wall for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's even something that Denny Hamlin said in his post-race interview when they were interviewing him down on pit lane, was that the the 2311 pit team, both of them really in his own organization. I mean, Denny Hamlin's own words were the organization is failing these drivers. And he was so happy to finally see something come together. But this was a one bright spot in what's otherwise been a very ugly season. And raw speed is good. They had it this weekend, but if they want to continue this feeling, they need to get a lot of other areas of the race put together, particularly pit road, particularly back at the shop. Good race, great result. But if, I need to see all phases of the race come together to have any faith that Kurt's going to make any type of playoff push.
Well, he's already in now, so he's qualified.
Deep playoff run is what I should say.
Yeah, we'll obviously we'll see. I think right now it's just this team getting in, and then we'll figure it out from there. But if they can improve, I think they can go further. And as they said on Twitter of that team, Bubba should be a playoff driver by now because he could have won Darlington. He very well could have won Kansas the way he was running. But the pit crew has just let him down. He also ran extremely well at Dover. And then the pit crew, again, let that team down. They have run a lot better than they have shown. Now, Dover was more of a pit crew and setup issue, but they seem to have figured out the setup. Now it's just, we've got to get the over-the-wall group figured out. Hopefully, they will have that situated by the time we get into Texas. And it's going to cost a couple people their jobs. And Arthur Parsons in the chat asks, could we see more winners in playoff spots this year? It looked that way last year. The way this car runs and the way how some of the smaller teams have been brought into the fray. We saw the 31 finish third at Darlington. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a great run, finishing 8th for JTG Doherty. We could have 17 winners for 16 spots this year.
I think as we get, especially this early part of the season, we've seen a lot of different winners, a lot of different organizations. But these big teams, your Hendrick, your Penske, your Gibbs, I want to say Haas, but let's be realistic. These teams are filled with very intelligent people who their whole goal is to figure out how to make this car that you can go down to Walmart and buy off the shelf. Their job is to figure out how do we make this car faster than the other teams. And they will find a way. These big teams, they've just got resources that we could only imagine. And I think what you're going to see is later this summer, your big 3, big 4 organizations, they're going to start taking the power back. Mm-hmm. But it's been fun seeing guys like Trackhouse out there just up front all the time. Petty GMS has been up there. Colleague's been up there. It's been fun seeing this, but I don't think that the on-track performance that we've seen from these smaller teams is sustainable. Not as a result of them, but as a result of the bigger teams just figuring this car out.
See, I don't know. I think at this point, Trackhouse is here to stay. I mean, they obviously got a obvious leg up on everybody else, but Chastain just continues to knock out the top 10. He's got a 7th here in Kansas. Unfortunately, Daniel Suarez ran into yet more bad luck, finished well down the order. But I think Trackhouse, you're going to have to put him up there in that top team discussion going forward.
That's true. They've definitely been running fantastically, and a huge part of that is Ross Chastain.
Mm-hmm. Ross Chastain has been really good, and people have been playing back to the Kevin Harvick interview. I think that was 2020 when Chastain accidentally got into him at Darlington in the Xfinity race, and Harvick said, well, that's why he won't be any more fast rides. Well, that comment has aged like milk because he kind of made his own fast ride there with the one.
And isn't that Kevin Harvick's last Xfinity race he's done?
That's the last one he's done since then, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's probably getting it anymore.
Mm.
No.
So.
Well, he only ended up 15th on Sunday as well. So Harvick, the long, slow slide to the end of his career continues. And for all those Kevin Harvick fans, as a Jeff Gordon fan that went through this, I sympathized.
I was going to say, Harvick is kind of Jimmy Johnsoning it right now, just without all the championships.
Sadly.
Ouch.
Although Jimmy, I think, had the worst slide, as we saw, because he just went from winning, cliff.
You know, if you take Jimmy's final couple years off, he won. If you just take the number of races he won, the number of races he raced, he averaged a win like every 6 starts. If you you have to take off the last couple of years, obviously, but every 6 starts Jimmy won.
Yeah, he was an absolute monster at his peak, and I don't think anyone saw that coming. But Kyle Larson, the guy who is apparently the heir apparent, you know, he had a slow slide there during the spring months, but he finishes 2nd. He's starting to come back a little bit. I don't think our defending champion is out of this just yet.
No, I don't think so. I think he had a little bit of a sophomore slump, but I think he's putting it back together. This track really suited him with that higher line working. And, you know, again, thanks to this next gen car for being able to handle Larson putting it in the wall 6 times. and he kept going. You know what I mean? He ran into the wall and he would still be competitive.
Yeah. And that's just a testament to this new car, because this thing is a battle tank. Like, it can take so many whacks and keep on running. It's taken hits, like minor accidents, where in recent years that would have been the end of that driver's competitive race, and drivers have been able to come back. So the car has done exactly what it's needed to do. And then got one more comment and one more quick question before we go to break, and I'll leave this to the two of you. Arthur in the chat, how long before Chastain gets scooped up by a Big 3 team?
He won't.
Ouch.
No, not because of that, but this is going to be a Kyle Larson, Chip Ganassi type of relationship where, like with Kyle Larson, his loyalty was to Chip because Chip took a chance on him. And in the same way, Justin Marks took a chance on Ross Chastain. No funding. You know, he could have kept Kurt Busch, but he said, no, I want Ross Chastain. He's my guy. I love the fact that he doesn't bring any money to the table. I absolutely love that about him. And so what I think you're going to see, as long as that Trackhouse team is competitive, it doesn't matter if they became a 1-car team in 2 years. Ross Chastain will never leave Justin Marks as long as he's having results.
I agree. And Michael, really quick, because we're up against it.
No, I think he's doing great at the Trackhouse.
I agree. I don't think he's going to get scooped up. I don't see him leaving at all. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, I sat down earlier this week with Eddie Kanfoush. He's getting ready to make his first start in a hydroplane racing machine. You'll get to hear from him all about that and virtual hydroplanes to the side of this break. You are listening to The Extra Mile here on iSports Radio, your feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here in the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And racing on land isn't just one of our interests on this program. Racing on the water as well, for at least your intrepid host, has become many of interest. And one of those races is happening this weekend in Cambridge, Maryland, with the Cambridge Power Boat Regatta. And a good friend of mine, Eddie Kanfoush, in the S50 Misbehaved, is going to make his first career start in the Hydroplane Racing League in a part-time racing effort. It starts this weekend. I got to sit down with him earlier this week to talk about his expectations for this upcoming race, as well as some talk about HydroSim and his racing on simulated hydroplane waters. Check out this. We'll be right back in just a second. Well, after nearly a year absence, the Hydroplane Racing League will be back in action this weekend in Cambridge, Maryland, and a two-time SNHL Division I champion will be along for the ride at Cambridge. And of course, I'm talking about the driver of the U1 Cheerios, Eddie Kanfoush, going to be driving the S50 Misbehaved in the two and a half stock class in the HRL race in Cambridge. And he is joining me right now to talk a little bit about it. So, Eddie, welcome in. And first, I have to say congratulations on yet another Rooster Tail Talks presents SNHL D1 Championship.
Thank you very much, Daryl. I think that makes it 3 now in that series, 2 in the E-League, just to boast for a second here. But yeah, after a long amount of time playing HydroSim, an opportunity arose to finally go racing for real. First race this weekend, so I'm really excited.
How did this come together, by the way? Because you've been trying to try your hand at the actual boat racing for a long, long time now.
Well, last fall, I was able to take a ride in a 2.5 stock for the first time. Not the one I'm driving this weekend, but another boat out in Ohio. I got to do a few testing laps and, see if this is something I really wanted to do. And, of course, I got bit by the bug when that happened. So started collecting equipment, I guess you could say, over the winter. And the opportunity arose. There was a chance to split some time in a 2.5 stock in the HRL series this summer, and I had to jump at that opportunity, so here we are.
And what is that equipment that you need for a boat race? Because it's a much different operation than if you were racing on land. Yeah,
it's a lot. So, I mean, the obvious things would be the helmet and the, the fire suit in the event of an unfortunate fire. But along with that, you need, some form of flotation, whether it be, a jacket that you put on over your fire suit or flotation in the suit itself. And you also need to have an air mask, like an air regulator, similar to the ones that are used in fighter jets, in the event that you were to wreck and end up upside down, so you can breathe underwater while the rescue divers get to you. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, the rest is all pretty much the same as any form of auto racing.
You say that the air mask, if you get upside down, there's actually a special test the APBA makes you take, isn't there, to see how you react underwater?
There is, depending on who you ask, you'll hear it called capsule training or dunk testing. But essentially, what it is there's a team of divers in a pool locally. They have a capsule that isn't attached to a boat or anything. You get in, you're hooked up to the air, you have flotation on and all that, and they flip you over and make sure you know the correct procedures to get out and make sure that you don't have any issues, panicking or anything like that if you're underwater. So it's a very useful tool. You have to do it once every 2 years in the APBA. I'm not entirely sure about HRL. I think it's the same, but it's very important for safety.
And you went through that. How was your, or how many times have you done the dunk testings? I know you did it once before you were going to be racing, and then you did it, I think, over the winter as well.
I have done it 4 times now, actually. I've done
Wait,
it.
you've done this 4 times?
Oh yeah, I've done it 4 times. I did it. So the youngest you have to be, I mean, it's changed in the past couple of years. But for me, once you turn 14, you can get into the smallest class of inboard hydroplane racing. And I was hoping to get a ride in one of those quite a while ago at this point. So I did it then. Nothing happened. Did it again 2 years later when it expired. Nothing happened. And then, COVID hit and everything. So mine expired again. And I was out at the race in Owensboro, Kentucky, and there was a shot perhaps that I was going to get to drive something either there or later in the year. And they were doing dunk testing there in Owensboro. So I did it there. And then, because of the pandemic and everything, you never know when stuff is going to be offered. So this spring, knowing I was going to race this summer, I wanted to make sure I was up to date, make sure, I'm good for the next 2 years at least. So I did it the 4th time there.
And just to tangent for a little bit, that race in Owensboro is becoming a really big deal. We know the HRL and GPA GP hydroplanes plan to be there. I've heard a lot of people compare it to the Valley Field of the South. That race is shaping up to be a really big deal. I can't wait to see how it grows.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool collaboration between the APBA, GPA hydroplane series and the HRL series for the Grand Prix class. They have slightly different rules for motors and everything, but it's a very evenly matched field. And you're looking at a really, really big group of GPs because it is actually in Owensboro the GP Nationals for the U.S. And along with that, it's an APBA event, so you'll have all the other classes. I think I'm driving there. I don't know for sure, but I think the plan is to also bring the 2.5 stock there along with the Grand Prix boat. So it's shaping up to be a fantastic event. I don't know if you're going to be able to put it, on the same pedestal as Valley Field quite yet, but depending on how things go over the next year or two with that event, it could very easily become a premier event in North America.
Yeah, we hope it does. And we just want to keep seeing boat racing growing, especially for me being in it the last couple of years after meeting you guys. The one thing I can thank COVID for is introducing me to all of you. So I want to get to that race at some point. There's a lot of boat races I need to get to at this point. And that's just another one on the list. So I keep saying you because I'm so used to the Unlimiteds, but the S50 misbehaved. How did this drive come together?
Again, just real quick, they were looking for someone to share driving duties with Amanda Brody, who is the primary driver. And, they're pretty close to home for me, and I've known them for quite a while. And they figured, why not give me a shot? So that came together a few months ago now. And it was very hard keeping it under wraps for some of you guys, but eventually I was able to talk about it, and we actually went testing this morning for the first time after having some engine issues, we'll say, last week. We went testing today, and we're ready for Cambridge this weekend.
How did that testing feel? How did it feel to be back behind the wheel of a S-class boat for the first time? Because it's not as fast, of course, as a H350, which is also known as a 5-liter, or a Grand Prix, or definitely not as fast as a Unlimited. But anything on the water has got to feel exciting when you're going at a high rate of speed.
It's fantastic. I mean, I was out there by myself. We had a few buoys set up on the Niagara River. Just to go so Amanda and I could go out, get a better feel for the boat, make sure we know, what's going to happen. It was definitely different from my first time. There were
Mhm.
a few differences in the boats, of course. The boat I drove in Ohio, Dennis Wright gave me the opportunity to test his boat. That boat had an electric wing, meaning the canard on the front to change the attitude of the boat was run by a switch on the steering wheel and an electric motor to rotate it. And in the S50 that I'm driving now, it's actually a foot pedal. I push my foot down, it moves some linkages and rotates the wing on the front. And that's really a personal preference thing on who prefers what. I don't really have a preference yet since I've only driven a few times, but that's very important. The other big thing was that Dennis's boat had the iron cylinder head that was run in that class for many years, and the 50 runs the newer aluminum cylinder head, which is worth a decent chunk of horsepower, so it had a little more get up down the straightaway and through the corner.
That should be fun. It's going to be a hot weekend, of course, down here in Cambridge, Maryland. 92 and 88 are the
92. It's gone up since I last looked at it. It'll be toasty.
Yeah, and we're recording on a Wednesday, so that's obviously the day before you guys will hear this, and it's 92 degrees, 53% humidity. So I imagine it's going to be hot in that capsule, even though you're not going to be in it for very long. It's going to be steamy, I think.
It gets warm. It gets very warm in there. Though I'm very thankful that Cambridge for the HRL event at least is in May, because the last time I was in Cambridge was for the APBA event quite a while ago at this point. 2010 was the year. And that was at the end of July, and it got to, I think, 110 degrees that weekend. And I stayed in our motorhome the entire weekend with the AC on because it was too warm to be outside. So I'm not envious of that race in the summer months. But it's still going to be very warm. Yeah.
You get used to it, living in it your entire life, but
I don't, man.
Yeah, you're in upstate New York, so you don't get the sweltering heat we do down here in the summer.
Don't make me sick, TJ, on you. It's Western New York. We're very proud people.
Right, Western New York. Right, don't want to pull a hydro news here, but so what are you looking forward to the most this weekend, getting a race for the first time?
Really, it's just going to be, getting more seat time, learning more how the boat should react. I'll be able to run in a little rougher water than I have before. And just being out there with other boats, I want to work on hitting starts, see how much carries over from the video game. Just getting a feel. There's no expectations on either of us this weekend to go out and set the world on fire. We're just trying to go out and get some laps in and try to get up to speed as quickly as we can.
And speaking of the game, we just wrapped up a couple of months ago another Saturday Night Hydroplane League season with 7.0 or 7.1, I guess it was by the end, but rapid departure from what we were doing in 6.9. Now we've got 8.0 coming up. The beta versions of that are out now on the HydroSim website. Everybody's just been running the GPs, I've noticed. I know there's some work going on with the Unlimited to get them right, but everybody that we know, I think, has run the GPs at least once at this point. I know you and I have run them a couple of times. I thoroughly enjoyed them. What have you thought about how the Grand Prix is replicated in the game?
I can't speak to its realism because I've never driven a Grand Prix, but talking to people who have tried it out, they've said it's a massive step in the right direction. So you're getting a much more accurate feel of how a race boat handles than we were before. Scott and Kim and Callan have been working very, very hard on the game, and they've made such an incredible piece of software that we're able to race on. And I've been having a blast with the GP boats. I know people haven't really been running the Unlimiteds because those aren't really done with the changes that have been made to the game since we wrapped up our season. But, the Grand Prix class is an incredibly popular class all around the world. So we've got people all over the place, from the US, from Canada, from Australia, from New Zealand. Everyone is racing these GPs because they're just so much fun. The power to weight is insane. They accelerate like nobody's business. So it's a blast.
And it's definitely a blast in game as well. I know the New Zealand Hydro Thunder League actually ran a sim league with Hydro Sim. I didn't see who won, but they actually did run a league with it. So if that needs to be, if we need any endorsement, it'd be that than actual Grand Prix Hydroplane League brand. And we've used this word Grand Prix just to back up and explain to everybody what a Grand Prix hydroplane is. It's basically the fastest hydroplane that you get to before you get to an unlimited. So it's the fastest of what I guess we could say the limited class here. Those boats can, and Eddie can fill me up here. Those boats, they're loud and they go really fast and they throw up a big rooster tail. It makes for a lot of fun watching them on a Saturday and Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, the Grand Prix class, the loudest and fastest of the inboard hydroplane classes. They run 468 cubic inch big block Chevy motors, supercharged. They, I believe by rule, are required to run the Zoomy headers, which makes them even louder. And they can reach speeds up to like 170 miles an hour on a closed course in a straight line. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. The Unlimiteds, the GPs, any hydroplane race, if you go, you're going to see something you've never seen before. And the GPs are easily a fan favorite just based on the noise and the speed alone.
Well, whoever decided that they should use the Zoomy headers, they need a raise because they sound absolutely amazing. I heard them for the first time in Gunnersville. It was the only boat I had to bring the earmuffs out for because it was pretty loud when Jeff Bernard brought the boat out onto the water during the Gunnersville Hydro Fest. But going back to Hydro Sim, we're getting ready for 8.0. I know there's a lot of changes coming to the Unlimited. Of course, they're also making changes for the GP as well, continuing to refine on that. But there's also a lot of tracks as well coming to the game. And we're really starting to get a who's who of past hydroplane race courses that we've had Unlimiteds and other classes run in the past.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic. You know, Scott Przybylski, who developed the game, has been working on it by himself for a very long time, but he's finally got some help. And they've been working on cranking out courses as Scott has made it easier to, download and update new ones. Mm-hmm. So beyond the courses, the current unlimited courses, we also have a lot of courses that, aren't run anymore. Like one that's in the works right now would be Lake Chelan. It's a 3-mile course, which is longer than anything we have in the game. It hasn't been run since the 1950s. We also have Firebird Lake in the works, which is, that is a man-made lake built for drag racing that they could only fit 2 unlimiteds on at a time in the late 90s because it was too narrow. So you're getting a massive riding courses. You're getting a bunch of stuff that is, no longer around or soon to be no longer around with the unfortunate news of Firebird Lake's, eventual demolition in the next 10 years or so. Yeah. It's a fantastic thing that they're doing, though. They're keeping a lot of old courses alive and making for a very, very cool racing experience online.
Can't wait to get to Firebird Lake. Also can't wait for Cambridge to eventually show up on there. We'll see when that track comes down the pike, but Cambridge is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to see you on Sunday down there. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get a chance to see you race, but I'm pretty sure you will tell me all about it. And if you're listening and you want to get down to the Cambridge Classic Powerboat Regatta there in Cambridge, Maryland, it's a free event. So come on down. Just got to pay a $5 donation to park. Plenty of food and craft vendors and event merchandise will be on site. And I've actually been to the park where the race, where the pits are set up. It is a beautiful area. So we cannot wait for this race this weekend. We got the Hydroplanes Racing League starting up once again. And Eddie, thanks for sitting down with me and good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much, Daryl. And thanks to everybody who's listening. Obviously can't do shows like this without them. And if anyone's stopping by in Cambridge this weekend, feel free to come find me, come say hi. Daryl will be there on Sunday. So come find Daryl. It's going to be a great time. So thank you very much, Daryl.
You're welcome. And for those of you listening on live time, you will be hearing live Daryl and the gang in just a moment. And Eddie, thank you so much. And we'll throw it back to the live show right now. It's live me again. Thank you so much to Eddie Kanfoush for joining me for that. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And hopefully that was very informative about hydroplane racing and the virtual version with HydroSim. So we're going to be right back. When we come back, one of my favorite interview guests of all time, probably, going to be joining us here on this break to talk a little bit of NHRA. We'll be right back here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with a list of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the colleges, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Follow them on social media at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, and Facebook, Southern California Warriors. Well, we're back here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Chris, and Michael here with you this evening. And I have to say, this is going to be one of my favorite segments for a long, long time. As you guys probably saw by both Twitters, the show and my personal Twitter, went to the NHRA Virginia Nationals for the first time in a long time this past weekend, and I had a lot of fun, and I had somebody special with me, someone that I would call my co-pilot for the past 10 years. I don't want to get too sappy. I got to try to remain a little bit professional here, but I will say that we had a wonderful time. And also, this individual, first-time NHRA fan, first-time NHRA race. That's kind of why I wanted to bring her on, just to get a new fan's perspective on the spectacle that is the National Hot Rod Association. Maryam El-Amin is joining us to talk all about it.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and get into it. We went down on Friday. We went the whole weekend, and we had a lot of fun, first off, but it was also very, 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 very rainy, wasn't it?
Yeah. It actually ended up being not as rainy as forecasted. We really thought we were going to lose a whole day of racing.
2 days, actually.
But we almost did. It was still a lot of rain.
Yeah. So we had a lot of fun down there. And before I get into my questions, I'll let Michael and Chris get into theirs. So you guys, you got some questions. You go ahead and ask her while I fire this thing up.
Did you wear hearing protection, or did you just take in all the noise?
Oh, no. There was no permanent drum damage for me. Thank you very much. I'm already sensitive to sound. Like, I can hear a fluorescent light 3 floors away in a building.
She can.
So I'm going to this thing, and Daryl says, yeah, every time they start up, it's a 3.2 magnitude earthquake. I'm like, all right. That sounds fake, but I'm going to plug my ears anyway, And he's like, great, I already got you, like, gun range certified ear protectors.
Oh, that's good.
and I'm like, baby, you know me so well. So I wore the little foam earplugs things with the big over-the-ear protectors over that. And that was almost enough to muffle the sound. To not cause me pain. It was almost enough.
Chris brings up a perfect segue. Let's talk about the one thing every person talks about when they go to NHRA race. What was your first experience with a Nitro car launching in front of you feel like?
Oh, we're skipping straight to the Nitro.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if it was the first. There was the local drag race you took me to, and I thought they had Nitro. I could have sworn.
No,
right?
They didn't have anything like that.
They had the ones with the fire coming out the back, though.
Yeah, but it was nothing like this.
This is definitely on another level. Yeah. So I'd seen it on TV. I'd seen pictures. I was like, all right, there's gonna be some fire. There's gonna be some rumbling. Cool. I got these double head protectors. I'll be good. And there's this video that Daryl kindly put all over his social media of me like sitting there, and I'm like watching the car's about to start off. I'm watching the Christmas tree. I'm like, okay, they're about to start. It's going to be loud. I'm good. I'm prepared. And then they start, and I'm almost knocked off the bleachers. I'm like, what? Like, you could feel it, the actual shockwave of the sound ripple kind of through your feet, through your bones, up your body, and liquefying your internal organs. In the space of like 2 seconds.
That's amazing, actually.
Well, yeah. Once you expect it, once you're used to it, but the first time it's like, okay, it's gonna be kind of loud. What the? And Daryl is just sitting here filming this, like, yeah, it's gonna be hilarious. Yeah, so this is like moment where I kind of hold my heart to make sure that it's still working okay, because if you weren't awake before, when Nitro start, that'll defibrillate you. That'll make sure everything is working order. And
it's gonna wake you up. I told you.
We were awake after that.
Yeah. Michael, what you got?
So, did you guys go down? And I know I saw some pictures of you meeting the drivers. What was your opinion of the drivers?
So I didn't expect to like meet as many people, or I don't know. I thought they'd be busy doing race car driver things, but they actually had a lot of downtime. So we were just able to just kind of walk right up to them, and they had little autograph cards, and it was really cool. I guess just like in all motorsports, everybody has their favorite driver and their favorite personality that they follow. So they're all like little crowds of fans, and there were some that Daryl knew personally, so he got to meet some that like maybe weren't as famous and weren't as big time, and it was cool to see the full like diversity of people who weren't as big time big shots, and people who, John Force literally has his own marketing trailer. we got to see the full spectrum of stardom. That was cool.
And that's the one thing with the NHRA national events that I like, and you quickly picked up on, and you posted earlier this week. You see the full gambit from the professional to, as you put it, your grandpa with the Oldsmobile and a dream.
Yeah, like there was some classes that came out. I was like, okay, we had nitros, we had these really expensive cars with this really expensive fuel with like a dozen crew members, and then the next class is like literally just some dude. Okay, just some dude with some Corvette. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're just bringing just literally some dude with a car and just putting them down and letting them race. And it was some dude with a sports car, just regular sports car you see on the road. Those guys who are always bucking you at the red lights.
Yeah.
They're here. The dudes is just your grandpa who's been modifying cars since the 60s. He's here.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally like a 70s station wagon at some point. So we just want to see how fast can we soup up a station wagon. It's really just incredible. The I guess car hobbyists, how fast they want to push whatever on four wheels they can make possible go. That was the fascinating thing to me.
Yep. Basically, as I explained it, whatever we can conceivably strap to a car and send in a straight line, they will do it. And that's what makes NHRA great.
Yeah,
That's
you
all about.
pretty much hit the nail on the head there, Daryl. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yep. And there was also a couple of special runs we saw. Let's talk about the top fuel bikes that we saw.
What I like to call the absolute freaking mad lads.
Yeah, these guys are absolutely insane. We saw a bike go 268 miles per hour on Saturday. Yep, Toby Spider-Man McGuire. Oh, no. I gotta go look up that guy's name because I swear it was not McGuire.
No, his name is not actually Toby Maguire, but we do call him Spider-Man.
That run was absolutely awesome. And I think we all said, we're not ever doing that. And we actually asked Kelly Klontz, would she ever ride a top fuel motorcycle? She's like, no, absolutely not.
What's her actual class of motorcycle? The one
Pro stock bike. Those go 400 horsepower. Sorry.
Yeah, 400 horsepower. But
yeah, Toby McBride. That's his name. Sorry.
Yes, but it's because of the jacket and the helmet he wears with the Spider-Man decal. I don't know if you have a picture of him available.
I'll try to find one. I don't remember if I took a picture I think I took a picture on my phone or took a video on my phone.
We might not have a picture of him, but it was really cool. That's his whole motif. But what most surprised me was how old is he, sweetie?
He's about John Force's age. So he's basically the John Force of this class.
Which, for reference, is how old?
73.
Gosh.
Yeah, I remember seeing him on ESPN when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
Spider-Man.
Yeah, so... yeah, but because it's Spider-Man, I thought he'd be like some young guy who just really liked comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see a picture of him, and it's like, no, it's some guy in his 70s.
But it was... he's 62, apparently, and a 20-time top fuel motorcycle champion. So... I think the one thing that caught me off guard, and I've been doing this for a while, and then we're going to get ready to let you go, sweetie. The track really changed from Friday and Saturday to Sunday because it was cooler. They were able to make all the runs they needed to, and then it was Sunday. It got hot, and the Nitro cars struggled to get down the track.
Yeah, the track conditions is something that definitely can make or break a race, is what I'm learning.
It was a big change. Chris, Michael, any other questions before we let Maryam go?
No, I think you pretty much covered anything that I would have asked.
No,
Okay.
I think we're good too. I'm just glad she had a fun time. I'm glad we got another motorsports fanatic here.
I don't know about fanatic, but I definitely have some admiration for how people spend all this money and effort and ingenuity and passion and pour it all into these machines, down to like how much tread is on the tire and air pressure, all to come down to a quarter mile in 3 seconds. That was just incredible to me. I'm like, yeah, all of this, and it's down to a quarter mile in 3 seconds. Which we've been trying for all year, all week, all day. I watched them in the pits work all day, making tweaks for hours and hours to come down to a quarter mile in 3 seconds.
Yep.
That was incredible. I can't help but to respect that.
Work all night to get 1/10 of a second.
Right. So,
All right,
those are my final thoughts.
All right. Well, sweetie, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join me. Miriam and I are actually going to go out to the NHRA race on Sunday, so we're going to go out and see that. Unfortunately, I don't think Eddie's racing that day. He's going to be racing on Saturday, but we're still going to see some really fast boats on the water. Those are some other absolute Matt lads. But thank you so much, and I love you.
Thank you for having me on. I love you too.
All right, so thank you, Maryam, so much for coming on. So we're going to go ahead and get into Formula One here as we're getting ready for the Spanish Grand Prix. Does this have an overly long name that I have to pronounce?
No.
Let's find out. So we're going to go over here to the...
España?
Oh, no, it's actually a sensible name. It's the Formula One Pirelli Gran Premio de España 2022. And this is going to be yet another race in the Leclerc versus Verstappen slugfest. Verstappen won the last 2 races. He is starting to close in on Leclerc. But, Chris, and you were talking to us with this before the show, a lot of teams bringing some upgrades, including Red Bull and Ferrari.
Yeah, so Ferrari is bringing their first upgrade of the season. There's a couple different things
did you
that
say they're first?
Yes.
They really haven't touched that. Wow.
No, so I think what they did was before the season they had kind of pegged Spain as where they would bring their first upgrade. They wanted to get as much data as they could out of the first couple races to kind of see what they had, what they needed to do. And it sounded like they wanted 3 good races worth of data before they started developing anything, which is smart. Whereas Red Bull has been developing the whole time, but it comes down to 2 different strategies of development. So Red Bull has been 100% focused on shedding weight off of their car. All of their upgrades have been about weight because they know that they have a powertrain that's good to win. They know they have good aerodynamic car. They just need to lose weight, because for every 10 kilograms of weight they lose, they gain 0.3 of a second. And they are one of the heavier cars on the grid, so they kind of came into it thinking we just need to get rid of as much weight as possible. Whereas Ferrari is actually developing the car as a car. And then Mercedes is also bringing an upgrade, one that they hope helps eliminate porpoising, which they might need to go back to a full side pod in order to eliminate the porpoising, just because of some structural integrity for the floor. And actually Ferrari is bringing a new floor too, which is probably to help with the porpoising. That's kind of a quick rundown of the main 3 anyway.
Yeah, and we've heard, and also Aston Martin bringing some changes as well to their vehicle, as we're now getting into the part of the season where all that knowledge that you've gained through the first 5 races are going to start coming together, and teams are going to start trying to solve issues that they've been seeing with their car. And that rate of development not only could affect this year, but Chris, Michael, it also could affect the next couple of years going forward, because these cars will continue to be iterated upon as we go into next year and the year after that, and of course the year after that, until we have the next changes in 2026.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm liking what I'm hearing, but I definitely don't think you can count out Red Bull. Red Bull, throughout their history, have been really good at the development game. So it's going to be interesting seeing how this all goes moving forward.
That's something that we talked about in the pre-show, was about how Ferrari and Red Bull are playing this game right now, a little bit of trading punches in the media. Specifically, Ferrari said something to the effect of, Red Bull's got to have used up their upgrade budget by now. And Marco clapped back, well, you guys must be running short too, because Carlos keeps wrecking cars. which is an epic response in my opinion. But something that Engine Mode 11, which is a former Red Bull engineer on Twitter, he said essentially that the spending cap is kind of a farce because these teams know how to manipulate data, and that like the allotted budgets are kind of a joke because these teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes that have just excess amounts of money, they know how to make data look different than it actually is. And because the FIA is not actually looking at the spending cap, they're hoping that the teams kind of self-police themselves, but they won't be doing audits of every team every year.
So what you're telling me is they lie.
They could. Now, from what I understand, the penalty would be very great so as to discourage creative bookkeeping. But at the end of the day, if you're not cheating,
come
you're not
on
racing.
now. Really, FIA? These talking about, we're going to make a penalty to dissuade from them from book checking. If you're not going to check them, trust me, they're doing the Dan Snyder right now. They got a book for the FIA, and they got the actual book somewhere where you will never, ever find it.
That's why I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
I absolutely believe the big teams are cooking the books.
Correct. And that's kind of more or less what a former Red Bull engineer said was like, yeah, they know how to spend over the budget without spending over the budget. And so obviously with fuel costs and transportation costs are like exponentially high. And I think the FIA might be giving some sort of budget extension because of the unforeseen ridiculous things. And believe you me, the big teams that can are hiding some stuff in there.
Well, let's think about the three big teams here for a moment. Mercedes and Ferrari are both massive car companies. They could hide their expenses within whatever the car company is doing. Red Bull, the biggest energy drink manufacturer in the world at this point, they do 11,000 wild things. And they can hide the money in that budget. They can
also basically make the Honda engines that they use now.
Yeah, so the teams that want to cook the books, if they're doing it, they absolutely know how they could do it. And they probably are. Right.
And that's what this guy said was basically like the spending cap is kind of a joke for the bigger teams because they are going to find a way around it. And what it's going to come down to is the losers pointing the finger at whoever wins and saying, check their books. But then the winner is going to be like, well, they're sore losers. Why don't you check theirs too? Right. And so it's just going to become this big game of who's the best at creative bookkeeping. And
that word is
and actually, if you're looking for financial wizards, you have to look no further than Toto Wolff.
Yep.
Right? That guy knows money in the same way that Christian Horner knows racing and developing drivers. Toto Wolff knows money. And if any team is going to successfully hide their overages, it will be Mercedes. You will never see them get in financial trouble. Whereas the other teams, you might.
So we are at 9 o'clock. Don't want to go too much into it. So we'll go ahead and just get into just one more question before we get into nearest the win. We know there's going to be a change in layout for Spain. We know the races here have traditionally not been that exciting. Do you think we get a more exciting race here this weekend, or is it going to be same old, same old?
No.
Michael was quick on the trigger with that one.
I don't know.
Sorry, Spain has never been interesting.
I don't know. We'll see. So these cars are driving a little bit different than they have historically. Obviously, they still need DRS to complete the pass, but it seems like they're able to stick with each other a little bit better than they have. So Spain is obviously not the Texas of NASCAR, but still a Texas of NASCAR. But I want to see what happens with this car and see how it races first. I'll tell you on Thursday next week what I think the future of Spain looks like.
Okay. Well, we will see. And, of course, we have to pick this one because it is for nearest the win. The category that somehow I am continuing to lead the championship. I don't have the updated results in front of me just yet, but I'll get those from Mr. Matt White. Sorry, had a brain freeze there. In a little bit to just get where we are. We're doing NASCAR All-Star Race as well as Formula One at Spain. And I think I'm going to take Charles Leclerc to get one back on Mr. Verstappen this weekend in Spain. If I didn't pick him already. If I did pick him, then flip it. But I believe I picked Verstappen for Miami. Chris and Michael, who you got?
We both picked Verstappen for Miami. Who did you pick for Texas?
I haven't picked Texas yet. I have no idea who I'm picking for the All-Star race.
So I am going to go with Checo. And for Texas, I don't know. I'm not even going to watch the race, to be completely honest with you. I boycott Texas and the All-Star race. Is Ross Chastain eligible?
So, yes, I will read all the drivers that are in the All-Star race just to help us. So, our All-Star, so these are the drivers that are locked in for myself and Michael. We're just going to pick from the 20 that are locked in. Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson, Brent Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, AJ Allmendinger, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, Bubba, William Byron, Michael McDowell, last year's Daytona 500 winner, Kurt Busch, and Alex Bowman will all be automatically locked into the All-Star race. Now, we don't know who's going to be in the race from the All-Star Open until Sunday, so we're just going to use this 20. And I am going to take, you know what, I'm going to throw a curveball. Eric Almirola pulls the upset and wins the All-Star race.
Finally giving us a chance to catch up to your points lead, Daryl. That's noble.
Oh, my God.
Keep picking him this season.
I don't know. With my hot streak, he might pick up the win on Sunday.
He's done at the end of the year, right?
Yeah, he's done. This is last season.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yep.
Ouch.
Well, I'm sorry, but he's the Nicholas Latifi of NASCAR.
Ouch! Jeez.
Well, I'm saying he's just here because he brings money. That's it.
Oh, my God.
Just throwing the word shivs on Eric Almirola. Oh, my God.
Let me start talking about Austin Dillon.
Oh, Lord. Michael, who you got?
For Formula One, I want to go Leclerc, but I'm not trying to jinx him, so I will go Carlos Sainz.
You can't jinx Carlos more than he's already been jinxed this year.
Oh, man,
I know, right?
shut up. For NASCAR All-Star Race, man, who do I choose for this?
Well, I gave you the 20 that are in it.
Just pick Kyle Larson.
I picked him last time.
Oh, sorry.
Who are the Hendrick drivers again?
All of them are in it. Larson, Elliott.
Byron's been on a hot streak.
Byron and Bowman.
I'll go Byron.
You're probably going to win this week.
Hopefully. I haven't been able to win at all.
And hey, if you guys want to play nearest to win, hashtag nearest to win with who you think is going to win this weekend. Post that on Twitter. We will get you into the lineup. Make sure you have those picks in before engines fire on Sunday. And folks, for the last 8 years, IA Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans. With your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iSportsRadio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one, starting at just $5 a month, gives you shout-outs on all 32, yes, 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include iSports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And we've got 4 Patreon supporters. That is Bay Area Raised, M. Los Great, Key to the Gate, and an anonymous Patreon user. So thank you so much. And this month's iSports Radio Fan of the Month is Justin Ekstrom, a Vikings fan from Minnesota at the Sports Crib 21. So congratulations to him and everyone. Thank you so much for making our 8th anniversary special, and here is to many more years of iSports Radio to come. So, with that being said, I'm at DK Jr. 12, Michael _War 25, Chris is at Fiji Sims. If you want to talk to us on Twitter during the week, make sure you keep it locked to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for all 32 of our shows, as well as iSports Radio. And if you want to go back and listen to any episode of any iSports Radio show that you may have missed, pick it up on anywhere where you can get your podcast, as well as the YouTube repository, which has an episode list from the entire 8 years of iSports Radio, including the very famous Mario Andretti interview that we all did and sounded absolutely terrible in during the first year of this program. I don't know why I talked down that interview, but I think we've done such better interviews since then, but that's just me being overly critical. Y'all might think it's great. So go ahead, check it out, and tell me what you think. But that'll do it for this episode of The Extra Mile. From Michael and Chris, I'm Daryl. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.